Welcome to If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo podcast with Don Purdy, former member of the Buffalo Bills front office, 27 years, and Josh Cormier, a member of the coaching staff under the Wade Phillips regime. And we are here, as always, to talk with you about the Buffalo Bills of 1990 and, of course, 2022.
Welcome to our Grant. We're recording.
Okay.
No.
Real TV.
Yeah, no, we're good. Don, how you doing?
Better now.
I
was parched.
Better now. Happy Groundhog Day.
Thanks. I didn't get you anything.
No. Well, you were drinking the world peace right there. Right?
I love that line when you said that. Of course, I watched that movie last night again.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. You either love it or hate it.
Well, yeah. You know what was interesting? When he's so depressed, so helpless that he kills himself in those ways. Yeah. That was cut out of the movie. We watched it on
really?
AMC, American Movie Channel. So they had a warning when it first came out.
Okay.
Some, disturbing scenes or whatever, but they weren't in it.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
So I have a funny story about when I saw that movie in the movie theater. I thought of it yesterday. We saw it, I think I was with a couple friends. This was back in like 1992. And it seems like it was a really polarizing movie. Either you loved it or you hated it. My mother hated it.
Okay.
Like wouldn't watch it. Thought it was the dumbest movie of all time. I think you either get it or you don't. So we're at the movie theater on Elmwood, the Regal Elmwood, I believe we were at, and there weren't that many people in the theater, and it was about 45 minutes into the movie, and there were some vocal people in the back saying that they didn't love it, and this movie's stupid, blah blah blah, and the scene where he pays for the piano lessons. Over and over and over again, and he kicked it in the woman, and this woman in the back. I'll never forget it. She goes, "Ha ha! Money talks, bullshit walks." And every time I see that movie, I think of this woman in the back of the theater who just got the biggest kick out of that. She hated the rest of the movie.
It was spontaneous too because you're watching it live.
Oh yeah, totally spontaneous. Had no idea that was coming. So we're excited that we're going to have Patrick Hammer on today.
How about that?
Yeah, from Channel 2, and a nice hook with the Bills and all of the weather issues this year, and just some more general like NFL questions and football questions. I think it'd be pretty entertaining to talk to a guy who has had some influence and some role on the Bills' schedule this year.
Well, yeah, he does a Friday show with Sal Capaccio that he talks about what the weather's going to be like during the game on Sunday or whenever it is. And it's funny. Like, I can't wait to talk with him about it, but it probably helps people know, what to wear. But this year it's like it's going to help decide whether the game is even going to be played in Buffalo or,
Right. I'm curious to know about the coordination with the NFL and whether the NFL has their own meteorologist or their own team. I know a lot of leagues, a lot of sports, have like a weatherman on staff or whatever. Famously, some people who you'll appreciate this in the Army, they credited the meteorological team with being one of the big heroes on D-Day because they had to postpone D-Day a few times, and they had a really short window where the conditions were going to be just right on June 6th, 1944. And I guess it was like a 50-50 call almost, because that could have literally sank the whole thing, the whole operation.
Gosh, that is fascinating.
And if you read, I did my term paper on that in college. And if you read about D-Day, the meteorological team was under a ton of pressure because Dwight Eisenhower wanted to go. And they had everything ready, but the weather is obviously the one thing you cannot control. And it was like a 50-50 call. And the chief meteorologist made like a heck of a call to say go. And clearly it worked out. But really that's one of my memories of like a meteorological team being under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
Tons. I mean, you're right. Unfathomable. Like if that doesn't go the way it went, and how many more lives would have been American lives? Well, that's more important maybe than. Did he come in?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Okay. We're live.
Okay, we are pleased to be joined on this Groundhog Day by Patrick Hammer. He's a graduate of University of Southern California, who then worked in Minneapolis, and now, of course, is here in Buffalo as the chief meteorologist at WGRZ-TV Channel 2. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you guys.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So Patrick, before we begin, two things. One, as a young kid, I wanted to either be an NFL football coach or a meteorologist. So having you on is exciting for me and an honor. Secondly, I find myself being a weatherman defender in my group of friends and family. I feel like you guys are almost like NFL coaches sometimes,
Oh my
where you can be right 95% of the time, and then the one time that something doesn't necessarily go your way in a forecast, you guys get just pummeled on social media. So
We need you defenders out there. I especially here. I've worked all over the country, and by and large, the audience here is wonderful. Okay, but you mess up a snowfall forecast, man, and they come at you with just claws, and the vitriol is just like, it's like, wait, you took time out of your day and you accessed that part of your brain and you mentally thought to write those words down on a computer and send it to me. I mean, where in your headspace did you go to get that dark? Right. I know that coaches probably go through the same thing because, yeah, we all get mad at play calls and we get mad at, why did you offensive, I know that McDermott and, our offensive coordinator have gone through this all year, but we do too when things don't go right. So
you're in a high profile position and you're making a call or kind of, sticking your neck out there in public. So do you feel for, like NFL coaches and guys in jobs that it's easy to second guess for people that don't know a thing about the science that goes into the job that you do or the preparation that an NFL coach does? It feels like a very similar job to me in a lot of ways.
If the NFL coach is on a field, doesn't always have access to replay, doesn't have the greatest view of a play or have the foresight to know what's coming next to make a call that Monday morning quarterbacks from an armchair are able to make, right? In weather, there's many times that I'm like, I wish I would have thought of it this way, or I wish I had, I knew what was coming tomorrow so I could think about the next day. I think that it's a very similar, why didn't you ask for, throw the red flag on that play? Clearly he was in bounds. Why didn't you call for a review? Well, maybe he didn't get the best angle. Why didn't you call for 7 feet of snow on that storm that we had in November? It's like, well, there were certain things that pointed to 6 to 7 feet of snow that we got in that November storm. And I maybe wish I had gone that amount. Nobody in their right mind went with that amount of snow, but now I wish we did.
That's historic. And it's funny you mentioned, speaking of Groundhog Day, it is one of the most iconic movies about weather, of course. I was watching it again last night for the 30th time. And when Bill Murray or Phil Connors is trying to drive back to Pittsburgh, and they get stopped because the roads are closed. And the guy says, "Buddy, don't you watch the weather?" And he goes, "I make the weather." Right? I think that doesn't really help you for people that think that you have some kind of control over the weather. But I got to ask you too. So as we said, you went to USC, Southern California. I have a friend that went to Pepperdine University.
Oh,
he had to leave because it was so beautiful that he couldn't study. So then you go to Minnesota and then Buffalo. So you must really enjoy people because the climates that you chose to work in are not USC.
Yeah. I'm from San Francisco, where the weather was, a thing, but it was, it's kind of boring compared to here. And spent a lot of time in Malibu when I was at USC, which is where Pepperdine is. I will say, though, my fascination with weather probably exceeds my fascination with, blue sky and great surf and sandy beaches. I as much as I like all that, if you are a meteorologist like me, the last place you want to be doing weather is in Malibu or San Diego. You kind of want to be where the action is. It's kind of like if you're a sportscaster, you want to be in Buffalo, you want to be in Dallas, you don't want to be in Albuquerque or a market that doesn't really have sports. So quite frankly, the goal was to get to a Minnesota, to a Buffalo. In fact, I was working in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and when I got the call to go to Buffalo, I will admit I had never been here. I didn't know much about it, but immediately I'm like, dude, this is where weather is king, where things happen here meteorologically that don't happen anywhere else in the world. I need a piece of that. I need to see that. I need to be there. So yeah, I do. I miss sunny California, of course, but
we're glad to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we brought you on, obviously, to talk about the weather and your career, but the Bills famously have had a number of weather challenges. I guess we could kind of start here. Do you know what the level of coordination is like between the NFL and, maybe you guys locally and the team? Can you kind of talk people through how the Bills get like their weather information throughout a week?
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that myself and Kevin O'Neill, who's another meteorologist here, are in direct contact with the Buffalo Bills and have been for a couple of years. Their equipment manager is somebody that we speak to throughout the week, whether on the phone or via text, every day leading up to the game. Okay. So we are giving the Bills weather information here or for wherever they may be going. That is where of course they're going to get their information from the NFL, from the Weather Service, from wherever, but we also are a direct link to weather information that they need. In fact, in the days leading up to the big November storm, we were on a conference call with a number of, staff members with, the coaches staff, helping to direct where players should go, how they, should navigate transportation to the stadium. And then of course, with the eventual having to get to the airport for the December games. So yeah, we're honored to be very helpful to them, or we try to be as helpful as we can with the Bills. Obviously the NFL is the ones that kind of make the final call. But in fact, with that November storm, we were helping them. There's a lot of the players live around the stadium, but a lot of players live in the north towns or downtown. And the question was, when do we get them to Orchard Park now, or do we wait till after the summer? It was a very convoluted process. That was really tricky and was kind of a last minute call because of the extreme weather that headed to the stadium on 2 occasions.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Patrick. I was there for 27 years. I was actually even part of the travel team. I helped organize that up until 2017, and I didn't know that. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't being coordinated with you in 2017. But it's funny to me because on top of that, I know you do a Friday show with Sal Capaccio.
Uh-huh.
We talk about what the weather's going to be like, whether the Bills are home or away, which probably helps people decide, what they're going to wear or whatever. This year, your information was helping to decide whether or not the game would even be played here, or whether the Bills were going to be spending Christmas Eve night in Chicago.
Yeah, and I remember, we were telling the team. The goal that game, that relationship with the Bills started after 2017. I know my involvement with the Bills really started last year and this year. Kevin started maybe a year or two before then. But I think this year in particular, since there was so much of a weather element to the Bills and their practice and their games, that was that Christmas situation was such that, okay, how do we get you to the airport? Because you remember, the airport ended up closing for 5 days. And what are the chances that you're going to get back? and we notified them that it's very likely if you get to Chicago, when we get to Chicago, and what's the best way to get there, there's a very good likelihood that you're not flying back to Buffalo, and maybe not that night, and we're gonna have to reroute you to Rochester or Niagara Falls, or and bus you back. So yeah, it was. We played a fairly big role in that, just because there was so much coordination that went into that. You had so many players, so much equipment, and lives that were involved here. I mean, it was really unprecedented
factor too.
Christmas Day, yeah. So Patrick, is there at the NFL level? I don't know if you know. Do they have like a meteorologist? Do they have like a full-time guy like monitoring the weather like in real time? And maybe who calls like a lightning delay during a game? Do you know?
That you know what? I believe that is more of the stadium has a meteorologist. Like, for instance, I know not this season, but last season, our game against Kansas City was delayed due to lightning. And that was not, I don't believe that was an NFL call. That was the stadium made that call. A meteorologist at the stadium, I believe. Either they consult with a meteorologist, or, I don't know if the NFL has a weather team. I don't believe they do. But I know that those kinds of delays obviously the NFL has to approve it. But I know that weather delays, as you know, with NFL games are rare. It's either, lightning is pretty much it, right? Or extreme snowfall. There's not much else, or severe weather like a tornado. And even there's many examples of games in the South, like in Alabama, where tornadoes have nearly missed stadiums by miles and games have gone on. So I don't really know exactly to what degree the NFL coordinates with meteorologists, but I just know that there's obviously an involvement, but I think it's at the stadium level.
Yeah, we're hoping to speak to someone from the NFL possibly next week. I have some talks going on that hopefully will yield that. But Josh asked you about the coordination with the team, which was really interesting, and in the league. Also, I'd like to ask you too, like this year with the storms, especially the blizzard, it was national news. So you're a local affiliate for NBC. What kind of correspondence is there between you and NBC? I mean, does Al Roker come and sleep on your couch or something? How does that work?
Well, we did not. I developed actually a really nice kind of friendship with Peter King. Formerly with NBC Sports, and now, of course, he writes his famous column. You know who Peter King is?
Yeah, sure.
And he reached out to me before the November storm, and asking me kind of about the vibe of Buffalo and what this means. And we stayed in contact, and we discussed quite a bit about that storm. I shared with him the story about I hired a guy to clear my driveway. I live in Hamburg. I hired a guy. His name is Squirrel. He had a tractor, and I hired him to clear my driveway. And before he cleared my driveway, he calls me and he goes, I just got to tell you a funny story. I just cleared the driveway. I cleared the end of it, and the garage door opens, and it was Josh Allen. And I went, "You just cleared Josh Allen's driveway?" And he goes, "Yeah. And by the way, this guy Squirrel, it fits." Anyway, I told Peter King that story. He loved it. He went and interviewed him. It turned into a national story.
I heard about this. I didn't realize you were part of that.
When Squirrel told me this, I said, "You're kidding me." So I'm on the phone. I'm texting with Mr. Mazurak, on the plane as they're traveling to, I guess they were going to Detroit to play the game. And I said, "Can you confirm with Josh that a guy named Squirrel cleared his driveway?" And he goes, "Hold on." And then I get this text: "Just talked to Josh, confirmed it was Squirrel."
That's amazing. That's amazing. So the national guys, obviously Buffalo's weather and kind of the narrative here is different than anywhere else in the country. and it feels like people around the country are like fascinated by Buffalo weather and kind of terrified by it in some ways. Like so when you get a Peter King, or you get, you know, the Today Show coming here, or the Weather Channel, or Jim Cantori, or whatever, like how is it different for you? Is it better, worse, or does it not matter? Like when the national guys like descend on Buffalo for a storm, does that change your role at all?
Is it like
the national guy? I mean, I actually really appreciated that Peter. And by the way, the relationship with Peter King remained, and of course when the next blizzard hit, we stayed in touch, and then he came out here for the game against what was the game? I met with him at the Big Tree, and we had a meal together.
That's why you don't remember.
I'm just trying to remember, which game was it? It wasn't the Miami game. Towards the end of the season.
New England or Miami?
It was the game the game against Miami with the two runbacks.
That was New England, right?
New England.
Yeah.
New England. Thank you. Not Miami. New England. All right. So anyway, so that was cool, and I appreciated that, so he could get a kind of a local feel. We didn't hear too much from the national people, but where we did hear from were the international people, and I'm not just trying to say. I was on live broadcasts in Great Britain, Australia, Turkey, and numerous radio hits in Ireland and throughout Great Britain. And these were radio or television, but from my front yard in Hamburg, I was doing like the versions of the Today Show in Sydney and in London, and in this rare case, I couldn't believe it, there was a broadcast, international broadcast speaking English, based out of Turkey, and because there was such a fascination worldwide about what was going on here, and there was certainly a link with the Bills too. I mean, it was like these worlds colliding that garnered the interest nationwide and worldwide.
Do you think it's the visual of the snow, you know, that makes it different?
It's the visual. I think it was just the story, and who's ever heard of, think about this. Orchard Park got 81 inches of snow literally in 24 hours, right? I mean, even the highest mountain peaks don't get that. The 24-hour snowfall record, I believe, there's two locations, one place in Colorado and this place in Alaska, and their 24 snowfall, they're right there. Wow. So it's never really been verified, but the snow that fell in Orchard Park is very close to a world record. And
so if you were starting an NFL franchise and you were playing anywhere in the country and you were going to drop a pin as to where to not place an outdoor stadium, or the Abbott Road and at the Big Two, wouldn't that not be the place you'd pick? Basically, last.
Yeah, now
right. And to think that when it happened in 2014, you're like, okay, it can't happen again. Well, it did. And it happened 7 years later. And then in November, you're like, it can't happen again. And it did, almost a version of it over Christmas. Now, that one, of course, was of a different flavor. I mean, that blizzard was, I feel like the storm we got in November was fascinating, incredible, certainly a monster, but the blizzard was different. And not to go take a dark turn here, but it took so many lives.
Yeah.
Whereas the November didn't.
Yeah, you in Minneapolis, and I remember going to Super Bowl 26 in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And it was I'm from the Adirondacks, so I thought I knew cold. But
right.
Late January in Minnesota was the snot freezing cold. Literally within minutes, I couldn't believe how cold it was. But then, they don't have the lake factor. You come here, and when you're doing your meteorology, you have to factor in the lake into
right.
everything, right?
Yeah, working in Minneapolis, the adage is there's nothing between Minneapolis and the North Pole besides a barbed wire fence. Here, the lake moderates, without the lakes, I should say, that direct discharge of Arctic air would come here too, but the lakes really moderate the air. So, what they get in cold and what we don't get in cold, we get in snow and they don't get in snow. I mean, Minneapolis does. Yeah, you can go 4 and 5 days where the temperature doesn't go above zero. That's crazy.
Yes.
But a snowy year for them is 50 inches. 50 inches of snow here would be like, oh my God, this is
child's play.
Yeah.
This is not that's the driest winter we've had in years.
So that's your long way of saying that you would never place, if you were starting an NFL franchise, you'd never place an outdoor stadium. Obviously it worked out that way and whatever. It's fascinating to me that if you threw pins at a map in the United States, that would be one of the last places, in the entire country you put an outdoor stadium. So do you feel, a lot of pressure? Let's say, the November storm or the blizzard in December, how much pressure do you feel to get it right? Obviously you have like the National Weather Service and, the other guys, the other channels, whatever. But life and death depends on you guys in a lot of ways. Like what kind of pressure do you feel? Do you feel like vindicated when it, comes through and maybe a storm that doesn't have obviously the loss of life that the one did in December? Like, can you kind of just let us know how it feels to have that, that responsibility?
Yeah, that's a mixed bag because if you're right, the bad weather did happen. It's like, sorry, but at least I was right. It's kind of a juxtaposition.
There's a real, there's a perception out there that we try to hype things, that we try to say things are going to be bigger, grander, worse than they really are to get clicks, to get them to watch, to get attention. And nothing could be farther from the truth, honestly. And I'm not just saying that. I speak for the entire weather community. That's not the case. We try to be as honest as possible. And so I wouldn't say vindicated at all about the blizzard. I wish we hit it hard. We used words. We used life-threatening. We used once in a lifetime, generational. We used don't go outside. We used you haven't canceled school yet. Please cancel school. School buses cannot be out on that Friday.
Yeah.
So when it happened, there wasn't an I told you so, but it was kind of like, I hope it served as a point, like, listen, this is an example of we're not hyping this. Now, on the other hand, with the November storm, there was data that suggested 6 to 7 feet in Orchard Park. And it's like, there's just no way. It has happened, but really? And we were still, we went from 1 to 2 feet, and as it got closer, 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, and so now you kind of wish, God, I wish who in their right mind would have called for that much snow 2 days out in advance, Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people are quick to point out when you're wrong and they forget when you're right. And that's just a part of the deal, and I think we've grown to accept that and just know that that's how it's going to probably be. But I don't think there's I don't feel any vindication about the blizzard. I just hope that the message got out. And yeah, I would say if anything, I wish we hit it harder because, we lost 49 people and that didn't need to happen.
Right. So, maybe forgive the clunky analogy here, but it seems like to me, is the National Weather Service in Buffalo kind of like the NFL? And then you guys, Channel 4, Channel 7 are kind of like franchises? Like, do you use all the same information? Do you guys compete against each other? Like, how does that work?
Of course, there's going to, first of all, we do not compete with the National Weather Service. We are 100% partners with the Weather Service. of course, there is a little bit of a competitive nature with the other stations. But when it comes to events like that, we are all on the same team, in my opinion. And we are all trying to get the same message out. Okay. So, again, partners is how I would like to view, again, the relationship with the Weather Service and with all of us in extreme events. But I know that the Weather Service, in my opinion, really took the lead with the storm. They highlighted the probabilities, the impacts, and they used verbiage that even I've been doing this for 26 years, and they used words that even scared me. I mean, it was, let's see, the storm hit on Friday and I came in on a Wednesday, and the first, life-threatening, once in a generation, we may never see a storm like this again, I was just like, oh my gosh. So I applaud them for being as out front as they were with this storm. A lot of people took it seriously, but not enough.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. You can almost draw a parallel to the Bengals, the Bills, and the league wanting to get it right during that situation. They're competitors, obviously, but then that happened and like, hey, let's all get this right for everyone involved. But I saw in your bio, very interesting, that you were the official meteorologist for the Olympic ski team.
Yeah.
And so we're not talking about life or death, but those athletes spend their entire life training. So what was it that you brought to the table to help them prepare?
That was a lot. That was very stressful. It was the Nordic ski team, the U.S. Nordic ski team. I was also brought on to consult with the downhill ski team, but most of my services were for the Nordic ski team. And when in cross-country Nordic skiing, everything is dependent upon the wax they choose for their skis, okay? And the wax that they choose for their skis is based on the temperature and the moisture content of the snow that they're going to be skiing upon, okay? So you need to get the weather forecast absolutely correct so they can choose the appropriate wax for their skis, because if you've seen a Nordic race, it comes down to milliseconds, okay? So if you get the forecast wrong and they choose the wrong wax and they lose a race, you're right. So I was so honored to go, and then to be chosen to have that role. And I remember traveling. I went to Sapporo, Japan, which is on the northern island, Hokkaido, Japan, and I had to learn weather patterns there and what the snow was like there, and how to forecast weather there. And then, of course, at Whistler and Park City, other places that I traveled with them. And it was very challenging because you had elevation, it was nuts, but it was, and you're dealing with athletes who are going for gold medals, and that was stressful to get the forecast.
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure that's kind of like same kind of stress as you feel on a Friday of a Bills home game Sunday, right? Like what cleats to wear.
Yes.
Same dynamic.
Yeah, in fact, that really manifested itself on that game against Miami. If you recall, we were calling for snow that game, and we got like 17, 18 inches of snow that morning in Orchard Park, and then the snow band lifted north, and we had been talking snow. The national media talked about snow. The broadcasters were talking about snow, and if you recall, didn't snow until the fourth quarter. And oh my gosh, we were stressed. I'm like, it's not snowing. And everybody's saying it was supposed to snow. Game plans were made around that snow. And thank goodness in the fourth quarter, it started snowing. And if you remember, that's when the Bills kind of turned it on.
Yeah.
And that's when we beat Miami. But Oh my gosh, I did not enjoy that game whatsoever.
That's funny.
The forecast wasn't working out, even though it was snowing 10 miles away in Buffalo. Finally, that band moved south and hit the stadium.
Do you in real time during a game, do you have the confidence? Would you have the confidence to say, hey, by the fourth quarter, it will snow? Can you get that like granular with your predictions?
You can. With lake effect, though, it is a challenge because those bands of snow can be very fickle. And that band of, sometimes snow bands, and it happened in November, sometimes they get into a place and they get comfortable and they just stay, which is what happened in November. And on that day, I think the 17th of December, that band of snow got up to Buffalo and we thought it was going to head back south. Well, it didn't. It got to Buffalo and it got comfortable and just stayed there eventually. So yes, we have given forecasts for the Bills that have been down to the quarter. But you don't want to get too cute because, little things can happen. But we knew that day it's going to snow. It's more likely going to snow in the second half. But during that game, I remember texting Jeff Mazurak like, hey, I know it's not snowing now, but it's coming in the fourth quarter.
That's big. Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. And I think I remember earlier this year, the game in Baltimore. I think the Bills took the ball in the first half because there was rain forecast for the second half. And that I remember, I think it's the only time that Sean McDermott's taken the ball in his 6 years. I think I'm right on that. And then it did end up being a real mess in the second half. So that's another time where I don't know if you had anything to do with that, but that was a weather related decision for sure.
It was, I will say, and I think maybe he was just being playful, but the coach comes on with Sal on WGR radio before me on Fridays, and the coach gave me a little shout out on the radio. I about fell over when he mentioned my name, and I think maybe it had something to do with that. But I mean,
you need one of those game balls. Don's got a bunch of game balls. You need a game
ball,
my friend.
I came home and I showed my wife the recording of the coach mentioning my name, and she's like, wait, you weren't this excited the day we got married. You weren't this excited the day your son was born, the day your daughter was born. But hey, the coach mentions your name, and it's like, the world's come to a stop.
We totally understand. That should be your voicemail from now on. It's just Coach McDermott's praise you. Before we let you go here, we have fun with a lot of the former players and coaches and staff that we have on. We do something called the 2-minute warning, where we ask you as many questions as possible in 2 minutes and just get some fun answers. So Don, go ahead.
Well, mine is going to be very specific to you to start off. So you and your news team are out and about in the city, and you run into the rival news team of the other networks. Naturally, there's going to be a back alley brawl. What is your weapon of choice?
Wait, what's that line? No touching the face?
That's
right. The hair.
No touching the face of the hair. I think that's my weapon. Hey, anything is a go, but just nothing above the.
Don't kill the golden goose, right? Where's your favorite place to watch a Bills game?
Two places. I love watching it at home, but I have a good buddy, DJ Jixter, who has got one of the best basements, man caves / bars in South Buffalo. And I love watching the game over at his place.
97 Rock, right?
Yep.
Cool. 3 people, dead or alive, you'd like to dine with?
3 people. Bill Walsh, former head coach of my 49ers. Trey Anastasio, because I'm a big Fish fan. It's a jam band. And let's see. One of the standby. Hold on.
Unique answer so far.
Gosh, I should have thought this kind of question may come.
We're deep here.
Yeah. So Trey Anastasio, what a range. Bill Walsh and Uh,
There's no wrong answer.
I will say this. I am just fascinated by him. I've never met him. I just find that he checks all the boxes as an athlete and as a person. Is I know this will sound kind of cliche, but is Josh Allen.
Hey,
There you go.
Very good.
You know his snowplow guy.
That's our connection.
There you go. So you're walking into an arena. You are the star attraction. There's dry ice going off at your feet. What's your entrance song?
Oh my gosh. It's a good one. Oh, there's so many. But I would have to say, there's the cliche "Enter the Sandman" by Metallica, but that's been so overused. I'm gonna have to say, I know what it is. This might just "Stone in Love" by Journey.
Nice, great guitar solo in that song.
Yes.
So the best concert you've ever been to?
Oh, best concert I've ever been to? 100% Steely Dan.
Nice. Your favorite Buffalo restaurant, and what do you get there?
Favorite Buffalo restaurant, and what do I get there? Let's see. Oh, there's so many to choose from.
True.
We're gonna call this the 4-minute warning.
Right. Okay. Let's just say I love the lasagna at Ilio's.
Yeah, you're more deliberative than like Daryl Talley. He was just firing answers, whatever. Right. We appreciate you. We appreciate you taking this.
Thinking it through.
Yes, I appreciate this method.
Your favorite cartoon growing up?
Spider-Man.
Right.
Spider-Man.
A popular food, but you hate it.
Popular food, but popular. See, I like everything, but I would say Jell-O.
Oh,
Jell-O. We had Kawika Mitchell on, a former Bill, and he said chicken wings.
Yeah.
Josh said that's a hot take. That was right. Okay, the most annoying fan base of another NFL team in the league. You've been in 3.
Annoying fan bases of another. I would say they're annoying because they're non-existent, and that's the Rams. They are fair weather when they. Did you hear about their Super Bowl rally?
Yes.
Okay, it was held at like a high school.
Yes, it was pathetic.
Yeah. And I just. Granted, Los Angeles is very distracted. And yes, you could say that there's other fan bases that are annoying, the Eagles, of course, and all that. But it's just, come on. Now, granted, the Rams have been moving around, but I would say the Rams. You know what?
You're the first person that chose a fan base because they were the opposite of obnoxious.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good take.
I like that. So number 9 here. If you could pick somewhere else in the country to do weather because of how interesting their weather is, where would it be?
Denver.
Denver, good call. Okay, and Ken, finally, can you sing us 5 seconds of the USC fight song?
Fight on for old SC. Fight on for old SC.
Very good.
That's good stuff.
You did better than most.
You did.
So thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great talking with you, Patrick. And I know that it's clear to me from talking with you here, why Buffalo loves their Patrick Hammer, and so we'll be watching. And
I'll be defending the Weathermen. I promise.
I need you.
I promise. All right, take care, buddy.
See you later.
Okay, that was an awesome interview with Patrick Hammer, and a pleasure of mine being a weather nerd that I am. That's my kind of side hobby.
Or he appreciated you being the defender.
I sure am. We'll be in our pool in the summer, and I've got the radar on, and obviously we look for lightning and all in the area. But so I'm the go-to guy in my neighborhood for when's it going to rain, which is a blessing and a curse, because then I get chirped if it doesn't rain. I'm like, wait a minute, you're getting this information for free. You get what you pay for sometimes, right?
You just reminded me of a funny story. We went to Florida one April. We went as a family, Amy and our girls, and our daughter Claire was really young. She was like 7, and couldn't wait to swim in the pool, like right away. We get there, throw the bathing suit on, going to go to the pool. Well, we're out there, but the lifeguard closed the pool because of lightning or thunder.
Yeah.
And they said, we'll reopen after 15 minutes or half hour of no thunder or whatever. And so she's just can't wait to jump in the pool. And all of a sudden she's like, can we go in yet? Can we go in yet? And there was like a distant kind of rumble of thunder. And she goes, oh, that was me. That was my stomach.
Good job, Claire.
Nice try, Claire.
That's clever. It's creative. All right. So before we let you go, we're going to do Don's favorite segment of every show. We're going to spin the wheel of failed Bills coaches. As a reminder for our YouTube comment last week, just to remind everybody, Don was the former director of football administration for the Bills from 2005 till 2017. And we spin the wheel of failed Bills coaches because in that time frame, the Bills never made the playoffs. These are not failed coaches. These are not failed people. These are failed coaches at the Bills. That's the way I had to spin it to get my friend over here to agree to this segment.
I think that is a win. Your clarification helps me buy into it.
Okay, so the wheel of failed Bills coaches today lands on Jason Rebrovich. Okay, I'm glad that you know the name because I have to plead that I do not.
He that's funny. He came from the Jets when Rex came. He brought a bunch of his Jet staff with him. It was 2015, right? 2015. And we had like the first staff person that came. Her name was Laura Young, and she was Rex's go-to. And we worked together, but she was real assertive. She kind of spoke for Rex.
Sure.
She came to Buffalo like the next day.
Okay.
And she was talking about all the coaches that were coming from the Jets. Jason Osvard, I think, who's still there. But I remember, and she kept talking about, and I was looking at these names. I didn't know these names at all. I knew a couple. I think I knew Dennis Thurman, but I didn't know a lot of the quality control guys. And he was one of them. But I think he came and he was immediately the defensive line coach. But she kept calling him Rebs. So Rebs is going to be doing this, and Rebs is going to have this offense. And I'm like, I didn't want to. She was just going so fast. I'm like,
who's Rebs?
And finally, Jason Rebrovich. And he came, and he was younger than I thought.
Okay.
A lot younger than I thought. And I don't know. I think he ended up coaching in Jacksonville, maybe.
Okay.
Afterwards.
Do a lot of the staffs kind of resemble the head coach? Like do they like the mold? You went from Dick Duran to and Shane Gailey to Rex Ryan. Like, does the staff follow that, or is it more of a mix where you always get a couple of one type of guy on every staff, whether the head coach is Rex Ryan or Dick Duran?
They tend to not fall in line completely until they're all in the same room.
Okay.
And then they kind of act in unison. But,
sure.
But aside from that, when they're kind of a lone wolf and talking to you get to know him a little better. And remember, Jay Respovich, I almost want to say, I know Laura talked about him. I'm almost positive he came over from the Jets, but this can be obviously verified that he wasn't a holdover from Marone, but she knew him. Either way, he was there.
Okay.
When she and Rex were there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
They all kind of blend together. There were probably how many coaches? Like probably 100, 150. Too many. I guess I was just asking you before we wrap up here. Like, did Rex Ryan have more boisterous position coaches than Dick Duran? Like, do those guys kind of tend towards what they are, or do they go the opposite way?
No, they do tend to be more what like their own coaches are.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think they just feel like that behavior is, if it's acceptable for him, it's acceptable for us. So,
sure.
Yeah, the coaches under Dick Duran were more.
Were you ever in a Rex Ryan staff meeting?
Yeah, I actually led the first one only because it was telling them as a group. It's funny because I got burned by Mike Mularkey once, where he invited me to talk to his whole staff about the whole relocation thing, and we sat down in a huge room, and I just started, and he's like, "Hey, who's the head coach here?" I'm like,
"Oh,
okay." And then all he did was introduce me.
Okay.
But he didn't like that I started the meeting before him.
Sure.
So the first meeting with Rex was similar. Rex was there, and I hadn't met him yet, but he was there looking, and his whole staff. And I was kind of just waiting for his go-ahead
to
start, like looking at him. And he finally was like, okay, like just go.
Very different
Okay,
personalities, right? Very
yeah.
different. You see that on that Hard Knocks and that line that always makes me laugh about him when he's, let's go eat a goddamn snack. You know,
He really meant it.
he meant it.
Yeah.
So, we have some fun episodes coming up next week. We're hoping to talk to Jeff Burris and have his interview in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
We also are going to have like a kind of a behind the scenes Super Bowl show.
Will he be our first round pick we've spoken to?
Yes. And first Notre Dame alum. And we're going to talk about the great tragedy of the 1993 Notre Dame season where they got totally hosed out of winning the national championship.
Ooh.
He was there, and I can't wait to go 5 minutes with him about why that's the greatest robbery in college football history.
He doesn't seem excitable, but we'll see. You
not even excitable. I just need to vent, and he'll know, and he'll appreciate that. So next week we're going to do like a Super Bowl behind the scenes show.
Yeah.
We've got my friend and Syracuse professor Pat Walsh coming on, who does an entire course about Super Bowl sponsorships, Super Bowl ads, all the trends in the media. And we're hoping to get Scott Birchtold back on, who was the VP of communications for the Bills, and also
he worked 30 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he was the director of media for the Super Bowl.
So he was over all of the media guys at the Super Bowl, for the week. Yeah.
And then maybe one of the NFL logistics guys can come on and just tell us what it's like to kind of run a Super Bowl. So
I look forward to talking with Pat a lot on that. I know very little about how that works.
Yeah. He teaches a whole course on just the NFL and he's been to a number of Super Bowls. He was behind the scenes as like a marketing and sponsorship guy. So I think there'll be a lot of fun stuff for Super Bowl week.
All right.
We'll see everybody then.
All right. Sounds good.
I want to bid you now farewell, but not goodbye.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Today is a bittersweet day for me. Memories, many of which Mr. Wilson has alluded to, flood my mind right now. I'm surrounded by my thoughts and indeed by the presence of friends unparalleled. Visions from a lifetime of thrills keep flashing before me, and yet the future beckons, and I look forward to it with excitement and anticipation. Because I'll tell you something, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. So I advanced it on that. And we finally came to an agreement and decided to move forward. And so now my time with the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, has come to its natural conclusion. How do I begin to thank all those who have been instrumental in enriching my life here? Well, I can't do it adequately, and I know it. I can't adequately. But I remember you all fondly and forever.
North Fox, so it's an early day. Be sure you get your taping and breakfast in. The meeting tomorrow for all players will be an 8 a.m. meeting. Enjoy your day today, fellas.
It's great because it was a special group of people at a special time in the city. The team that we had really unified the region. And there are still people who think fondly of those things and remember some significant things that happened during that time that were pretty cool.
You see, our fans are great. They come out, they get excited, they come out and they cheer before the game. They're ready to go. And when you see that, when you walk out of that tunnel, right now, here comes the electricity.